Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. It is a start to a brand new week, which is always exciting. It's another new opportunity that we get to create the life that we want to live, and I am back with some more information to help you create the life that you want to live and live your life to the fullest and happiest that you can. It was just my birthday this past weekend, and I feel extra motivated right now to just, create that life for myself and to help others create that life for them. And I just love being able to come on this podcast and share information with you. So today I want to talk about what defines us a little bit, kind of what makes us who we are. Like I said, it was my birthday this weekend. I've been doing a lot of reflection and thinking back of my past year, right? I'm like kind of appreciating everything that's happened. And for me, the past year of my life has been the biggest roller coaster ever. I've had so many big events happen, so many big changes, which, from highs to lows to everything, it's been a absolute crazy year. And then ending this year of my life with, during this pandemic and doing all these different things that are going on in our world, it just really got me thinking, what makes me me and what makes somebody else them? Like, how do we define ourselves as a person? And I think that there's so many, I don't think there's, maybe not necessarily the right or wrong answer to this. I think that when we think about defining who we are and what makes us us, like, I was really trying to reflect, and I'm like, am I going to list my hobbies, my qualities, characteristics about myself, my work, things I'm passionate about, what I do? Like, how do you define who you are? And I think for every single person, it's obviously different. And I think we actually, we get to decide who we are, and we get to decide, the definition of us, I think. And I think we sometimes forget that is completely up to us. Not all of our choices or actions or things we've been through or our jobs or anything like that doesn't have to define us if we don't want it to define us. Like, we get to decide exactly who we want to be every single day, which is the most beautiful thing about life. We get to wake up and we get to just be who we want to be and work hard to where we want to go and all that kind of stuff. I talk so much about, getting outside of your comfort zone and pushing yourself and growing and self-improvement. This podcast is all about improving yourself and being the best version of you to live your life to the happiest and fullest. So how exactly, I think knowing kind of what defines you as a person can help you live your life to the fullest and happiest, because when we fully know ourselves, that's huge. I think that really carves our pathway down to where we want to go in life. And so, but finding out, kind of trying to say what defines me or what does not define me, there's so many factors to that. And like I said, I think it's different for everybody. A lot of people will list like a whole range of ways of that makes them feel the way that they are. Like, I find like your job's kind of your go-to, or just like characteristics about yourself. Oh, I'm loyal, brave, curious, determined, honest, I'm kind, I'm a good friend, I'm a good listener. Yeah, like those are all great qualities, and maybe those do help define the person that you are. So there's no really right or wrong answer, but I definitely have a list of things that don't define us. And my biggest one is our mental health, mental illness, anything like that. That does not define the person that you are, which is, I think, one of the things that, sometimes we go wrong within our society. People think that if you have mental health problems, that's going to define the person that you are, or you have some kind of disability or something like that, and it's like that defines you. It doesn't define you. It really, really doesn't define you. That is just something that's a factor in your life. It's a part of you, and it's something that you have to work through yourself. But that doesn't mean that you are your mental illness, or you are your disability, or, you know, any kind of thing like that, right? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what doesn't define us, the things that definitely don't define us, but then I'm just going to jump in, hopefully give you some ideas and things to kind of reflect on and think about, things that might, you know, if you're trying to figure out kind of what does define you as a person. I'm going to be talking a lot about different qualities and things that maybe we should focus on to try to figure out kind of what defines who we are. It's just getting to know ourselves is just a crucial part of life and growth. And, you know, we only get to know each other or get to know ourselves better, obviously, each day, because we're growing and we're learning, and we learn new things about ourselves every single day, which I think is just so exciting. So I think the definition of who we are is ever changing, and I think it's always going to keep changing. But I think we can have a baseline of, yeah, like, I feel like this is kind of who I am, this is what makes me me. And I find too, a lot of people think, oh, the definition of me is like the thing that other people say about me. Like, if it's like, for me, I always get, you have a really large personality, and like that, you know, I could say that that's kind of what defines me, is my large personality, because I get that all the time. I meet new people. You have a very big personality. And so that's a common thing that I get. And so maybe that's part of what defines me, is my big personality. Maybe you just get you are such a thoughtful person. Maybe that's part of like what, you know, defines you. So it's definitely different for everybody, but I hope today I'm going to kind of bring up some stuff that maybe kind of puts a little light bulb in your head, gets you thinking of, okay, this is kind of what defines me and what doesn't define me. And I think it's really important to talk about both, because we forget in our society that we don't have to be defined by our mistakes, our bad choices, the wrong turns we've made, you know, when we've fallen off the beaten path, like anything like that. That stuff doesn't have to define us. We don't have to let that define us, even though it kind of feels like it does sometimes, especially when you make a big mistake and you have regret for it, and it goes, oh my gosh, this defines me. But you are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You get to be whoever you want to be, which is, it's so exciting, because that's really how we are. Like, we literally get to wake up every single day and decide to be a good person, decide to be a good friend, a good listener, a hard worker. Like, we get to wake up and do that every single day, which is so cool. And that's why I think the definition of ourselves is ever changing, because every single day we get to learn and grow and decide who we want to be and where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And it's just so, so exciting. So today, let's talk about what defines us as a person, but I want to start off with what doesn't define us. Like I said, our mental health, disabilities, things like that, that does not define who you are. Your mistakes, your regrets. We all make mistakes. We are humans. That is just how it is. And we have to learn to accept that. But I want to give you a list of things that definitely do not define who you are. And my first one is your past, because I feel like when we go through past experiences and things like that, especially if we've gone through trauma or something that has happened that has really affected us and maybe changed us in some way, we kind of get stuck on that. Oh, well, this happened, and it's like, I'm this way because of that happened in my past. And that's not how it should be. You're not your past. Like, it's in the past, and that's why it's so important to focus on the present moment. But it's difficult to focus on the present moment sometimes, especially when our past is kind of eating us up, when we got things, in the back of our head that maybe even happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like, it doesn't even matter how long ago it happened. If it's still in the back of your head, you're letting that define you. So we have to be able to let go and look at yourself with fresh eyes every single day. Wake up in the mirror and you have a new opportunity to be who you want to be. Your past is in the past. That doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the present moment. And the present moment, I think, is a part of what defines you, but not your past. I just thought that was like the most common thing that people go back to. It's like, oh, well, I have this past experience, and that's why I'm this way and this. And it's just, we don't have to have that mindset. Your past is in the past. That's why it is gone. You're done. You're all the way back. Your tendencies also don't define who you are. Like, let's say that you tend to get distracted really easily. Maybe you become shy around new people, or you get angry when you don't get your way. These tendencies aren't who you are. Like, those are labels, and like, don't let those labels limit you. That's another thing within today's society. We have so many different labels for different things. I think with social media, that's a huge thing right now. And so your tendencies are not what defines you. You know, you are much more than these habits that you have in your life. And you can learn to outgrow those habits. If they're habits that you don't like and they're not benefiting you, there's ways that we can outgrow those habits. And so your tendencies aren't going to define who you are. Yeah, it might be, it might be something that happens in your life. Maybe you do get shy around new people, or you get really angry when you don't get your way. But that's something that you can work on yourself, and it doesn't define the person that you are. Okay, it is time for a little bit of a break, but don't go anywhere. I have lots of information to share with you today. I'm going to go through a few more things that don't define us until I jump into a little bit more of maybe what does define us, and maybe a way that you can kind of break it down and do some self-reflection for yourself. This is what I've been doing lately, and it's helped so much, just kind of looking at core parts of my life and trying to just break them down a little bit. It's like getting to know yourself all over again. Like, it's just exciting to try to understand yourself. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello. Okay, so we're talking about what does and does not define us. My next one for you that does not define the person you are is materialistic things, the things that you own. Okay, so, owning 3 vacation homes, your really fast cars, a 5-bedroom house, a bunch of brand name clothes, like, that might make your luxurious life, that's great for you. Like that, but the materialistic things that you own doesn't define the person that you are. And I think this is a really important one to remember, because you can have nothing and still be a good person and be the person that you want. And you can have 3 vacation homes and be the person that you want too. But it's so important to remember that when we think of the definition of who we are, it's not what we own. It's not, the materialistic things that we get. It's, maybe that's part of our life, of course, but it doesn't define the person that we are, especially if you don't want to let it define the person that you are. Same goes with money. Like, money and the things you own, like, that doesn't define who you are. Like, the most important part is that you love yourself and that you're happy with yourself. It's not about how rich or poor you are or what you have at all. It's literally just about how you feel who you are as a person. And if you're happy and you're healthy and you feel like you are a good person, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter about materialistic things, because whether you're rich or you're poor, you're in the middle, you have an equal potential for being happy no matter what. You have three vacation homes, or you have nothing. Like, it doesn't even matter, because you still have the same potential for being happy. Materialistic things do not make you what you are, or do not make you happy. It's like money doesn't buy happiness. It's like the most cliche quote ever, and it's true. Money does not buy happiness. And so don't let the things that you own or do not own define who you are as a person, because it really just doesn't. And then my last one I'm going to mention is your accomplishments also don't define who you are. So, and by accomplishments, I mean like your credentials, your grades, degrees, rewards, achievements, like anything like that. That doesn't define who you are. The person that has, a law degree compared to someone who, has their high school diploma, that doesn't define who you are. It just means like you went on different paths of life. that's just how it is. So your accomplishment, your credentials, grades, degrees, those things doesn't define who you are, especially when you don't want to let it define who you are. But there's also the other side of it, like, I'm a doctor, I went to school for 10 years, like, that is me. Like, I am a doctor. Like, that's how we strongly feel. But like I said at the beginning of today's episode, the definition of who you are is whatever you decide it to be. So if you did go to school for 10 years and you worked really hard and you're a doctor, and that's me. I am a doctor. I save lives. Like, that's what I want. Like, that's who I am. Then good for you. And that's great. And that accomplishment, like, I'm not saying that your accomplishments should be, shoved to the side. Of course, we have to appreciate every single thing that we do and recognize and celebrate all the great things in our life and the things that we work hard for. But those don't define the person that you are. So there's just a few things that I do not think define who we are. I think there's so much more to it than materialistic things, your past, especially mistakes, your mental health, your disability, anything like that doesn't have to define who you are. This is all up to you, how you want to be and the kind of person that you want to be. So I feel like at our core, as humans, we're all about love. It's love. Love is at our core, and throughout our lives, we have learned to kind of cover up this love with fear and other negative emotions, and in reality, we are just love-based human beings that just want to be loved, give love, receive love, like just feel love in general, but life takes over and clouds it over. Fear, negative emotions, like judgment, like all those things obviously have an impact on our lives and in our mindset. But when we continue on a path to find what we really want in life, we have to think about more of how do we want to feel instead of, what do we want to do? Do you want to wake up every day feeling happy and confident and content and relaxed and loyal and honest and all those kind of things? How do you want to feel every single day, not more of like what you want to do? And at our very core body, I really do think we all have just this sense of love. We just want to be loved, give love, be positive and all these things, but then life kind of comes and gets in the way. Life isn't perfect, but we are all different. How you choose to build yourself from the inside out is up to you. How you decide to define yourself is completely up to you. And it's like, you may decide to, define yourself from your doctor's degree, but that is up to you. And we get to decide who we want to be from the inside out. We're the only person that gets to decide that. We get to figure it out ourselves. So I want to just kind of break down a few steps on how to kind of maybe define who you are in a sense. These are just some kind of main categories that you can go back to and kind of just do some reflection on yourself within them. So my first one is love itself. So love is, I think, always number one because it's at our core. We all just want to be loved and give love. And even though we've gone through, so many different things in our lives with love and hate and these emotions, when we build our lives based on what we love and who we love and just love in general, that energy that we send out is the energy that we're going to receive back. And so think about your life in a loving spectrum. Like, what are the things that you love? What are the things that you really cherish? Like, what's like the most, like, just to your inner core, the things that you genuinely adore. And that is, I think, can help you break down a reflection of what defines you, because those are things that we strongly feel for, right? Which leads into my next point, which is your passion. What are the things that you are passionate about in life? Like your hobbies, like, maybe you absolutely love ice skating. Like that is your passion, that is your hobby, that is everything. And maybe that does help define the person that you are. What do you find yourself doing in your free time? Find things that are important to you and then allow them to become an even bigger part of your life, because passion and love is so strong. Like those are just two such strong emotions that I think they have such a very strong impact of the way that we do define ourselves, because it's just, those are two extreme emotions that are very huge in our lives. So take a look at the things that you love and take a look at the things that you're very passionate about. If you're really, really passionate about your job, like that's great. Amazing things come to us when we are invested in doing what makes us happy. So when we go after our passions and the things that we love, we're automatically just going to be happier because we're focusing on the positives, on the things that we do love, the things that we enjoy about life. Now, my next one is health. we can't go about our daily lives without truly feeling healthy and our best, because there's nothing worse than waking up and feeling sick, and then you're just kind of set up for a bad day because it's, I just feel lousy, I'm tired, I feel drained, I'm just you're not yourself when you don't feel healthy. So, I think taking care of our bodies and taking care of our mental health and physical health is such a huge thing, and that can kind of help define you as well, because we have to be mindful of what we eat, and we have to find time to get exercise, and this allows you to be the best person that you can be from the inside out. We have to be healthy to feel good in general. So focusing on your health and kind of, taking every step that you can to ensure that you are as healthy as you possibly can be, getting that physical exercise, eating properly, all those kind of things. Now the next thing is relationships and who we surround ourselves with. I say this a lot. You will be no better than the people that you surround yourself with. Like, if you surround yourself with people with really, really great work ethics, and they work hard and they go for their dreams and they're focused and driven, you are going to be focused and driven and work hard for your dreams. But if you're surrounded by people who just don't care and they just kind of glide through life, they let things just kind of happen, they're not all about, making their own opportunities for themselves. They more just kind of take a step back and just let life happen. You're going to, it's all about who you surround yourself with. It really, really is. And I think, this doesn't mean that your relationships and your friends define who you are, but think about it. If you are surrounded by hardworking people, you're going to be a hard worker. And having those strong relationships with those positive people in your life helps define who you are, because they're going to help shape who you are too. It's like your best friend is like probably, the most inspiring person to you, and you love that person so much because like they're your best friend. They're the best person in the entire world. Like they love, and they're selfless, and they have passion and drive, and they help you be the best version of you. Those are the best relationships, when you're able to push each other to be the best version of each other, right? So your relationships can really have an impact, I think, of how we define ourselves. And then the next category is our spiritual and religious practices as well. I don't want to get too far deep into this, but having some sort of relationship with, that side of things. How do you feel about things? Your values, what do you believe in? I don't think that what you believe in exactly defines who you are, but I think it definitely can play a factor. Like, what are your core values? I think our core values definitely have an impact of the person that we are, because that's what we believe in. That's who, that's what we think about every day. That's what we believe that as a human being. It helps you feel connected to something in this world, and it allows you to feel a sense of purpose and comfort when we do believe in things. And so that can kind of also play a role into defining who you are, because if you strongly believe in something, then you're going to be passionate about it, and you're going to love it, and you're going to, it kind of comes all full circle that way. So love, passion, health, your relationships, your core values, your spiritual or religious practices, those are all kind of some categories that can help you define who you are if you're trying to figure it out a little bit more. But it's time for another break, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, I have more information to share with you. We're talking a little bit more about what defines us and what doesn't define us, and I'm going to share a quote that I found the other day that kind of helped also inspire this episode. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast. All right, so we are on the last stretch of today's episode, and so I just want to share a little. So I saw this quote on Instagram the other day, which kind of inspired a little bit more of this episode too. I've been doing a lot of this reflection lately with my birthday that was here and everything. I kind of thought about, who I am as a person, but then I saw this quote online, and I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. In my head, this makes sense. So it says 2 things that define you. Your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. So when you're patient, when you have nothing, I think that really means just being the type of person that can still take things, with a grain of salt sometimes, and be able to stay calm and stay a good person and stay respectful and true to yourself and true to your beliefs and your friends and everything, and be patient when you have nothing, and understand that good things will still come, and that, life isn't over. You're maybe going through something right now. And so our patience when we have nothing, when we're at rock bottom, that definitely does help define, I think, the person that we are, because it's, how do we react to those situations? How do we treat ourselves in those situations? How do we treat others in those situations? And I'm not saying that this is something that, we can definitely grow out of habits if we don't like the way that we are when we hit rock bottom. No one likes hitting rock bottom. No one likes feeling that way, of course. But if you have the patience to trust yourself and trust that things will work out and things just happen, everything happens for a reason. So when you're patient, you're the type of person that is able to give life the chance to still unfold and to still be better and more positive. And then it's also your attitude when you have everything. So how do you present yourself when you have everything, when you are in a good place? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat others? What kind of things do you bring into your life, or what kind of just the attitude that you have to it? Are you grateful? Like, do you respect everything? Are you thankful for the things that you've worked for and the things that you receive now in your life? I think it comes down to our core values and how we respond to things, how we think about things, how we think about ourselves, and like a lot of it is how we feel about ourselves and how we treat ourselves. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person that's going to be there for you. And so you have to love yourself in and out. And if you don't feel like the person that you are is someone that you truly love, then we need to go in and do some self-reflection and start to think about, okay, what does define me? And it's not just about the good things or the bad qualities about ourselves. Like, we can make a list of pros and cons of things that we love about ourselves and things that we don't like about ourselves. And that list doesn't define who you are. I think it's your ability to want to change those things. It's your thought of, hey, I have these list of things that I'm not proud of. So are you going to work for it and change them? Or are you just going to sit back and not care? Right? And if you do want to be the best version of you, you want to live the life you've always wanted to live to the fullest and the happiest, you want to feel good, then you'll look at that list of things that maybe you're not so proud of, and you'll work hard to change them. And we can't change our mistakes. We can't change our past, which is definitely why those things do not define us. We all make mistakes. We're humans. Things happen in the past, and that's why it's in the past. We shouldn't be worrying about it anymore. We're in a different place, focusing on the present moment. But what does kind of define us is that if we can take a look at a list of things we don't like, and we can figure out a way to work for it and to be the best version of ourselves. And so you get to define who you are in your own way. Everyone gets to define who they want to be. So who do you want to be? How do you want people to define you? And for me too, I always think about, how do I want someone else to describe me? Like, how does my best friend describe me? And, like, is that the person that I am, the way that my best friend sees me? Maybe part of it is. Or, like, when you meet somebody new and it's like, I wonder what they said about me. I wonder what they took from me. What kind of energy did I give up? And like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I always get the comment, you have a very big personality. And so I meet people for the first time. I'm just that type of person. I'm kind of a little bit obnoxious with loud and positivity. Especially these days, I've just been on cloud 9, and so I have that big personality. This is who I am. And I get that comment all the time, and it makes me happy because it's one of those things that's consistent. People always say it about me, and I'm like, you know what? I like that, and I respect it, and I think it's really cool that that's something that people think. People that don't even know me that well, that meet me one time, wow, your personality is so big. thank you. Like, that's a common thing people say. So do you have a common thing that people say about you maybe? Like, maybe that you can start from there too. I know that opinions from others definitely don't define the person that we are. Like, we get to decide. But for me, while I was doing some self-reflection and I was thinking about the person that I am, it kind of made it easier to kind of think about, what do other people say about me? And not just anybody, but people too that love you and care about you. So, like, what does my best friend say about me? What does my dad say about me? My mom, my sister, my brother, my family members, my closest friends. You know, what do my teachers say about me? You know, people I look up to. And, you know, taking those things into consideration, I think, is super helpful when you're trying to figure out kind of maybe who you are. Don't take the opinions from others that are, you know, trolling you on the internet, sending you nasty comments. Those opinions do not matter. But for me, taking an opinion from somebody that I know loves me and cares about me, I respect their opinion. I respect my best friend's opinion more than anything. So it's like what she says. If she says I have a big personality, I probably have a big personality, and I respect her opinion from that. And I get it from strangers too, or people that I meet randomly, but I also get it from the people that I'm closest with as well. So if you have a hard time thinking of how you want to define yourself, think about the people that love you and care about you, and what do they say about you? What would they write? You know, like, has anyone, like, written you a letter or said something about you, or said, you know, I feel this way about you, or you give off this kind of energy? And if it's somebody that you truly trust and love and appreciate, I think it's super cool to take that opinion in and just absorb it for a bit. Just absorb it and think about it. And maybe their opinion does help define you, whatever they said, that big personality for me. That is definitely something that helps define who I am. But it's also something I'm proud of. And so, you know, don't let an opinion from someone else that maybe you're not so proud of define you. You get to decide what defines you. And, you know, the way that you act and the way that you treat yourself and the way that you treat others has a huge impact on it. Our core values, the way we love, our relationships, our beliefs, all that stuff plays a factor, like I mentioned. But at the end of the day, you are the only person that gets to decide exactly who you want to be and how you want to be defined as. And no matter where you go, people will always have a different definition of you. Yeah, I have a common denominator. People say I have a big personality, but I'm sure I've met a lot of other people that just, you know, they don't use the term big personality. They might use the term loud or obnoxious. And it's different, and that's like their take on it. And so we have to understand that no matter where we go, who we meet, what we encounter in our life, the experiences that we do, everyone's going to have a different definition of us. And their opinion on us, their definition of us might change over time. I'm sure you have a different, like, you know, that best friend that you had in high school that you drifted off because of something, like, maybe the definition you had of them back then is probably not the same definition you have of them now. So you have to understand that it goes both ways. People aren't always going to define you exactly the way you want to be defined or the way you want to be seen. And so we have to understand that we can't always be seen the way we want to. We can't always be heard the way we want to, because people have their opinions and everyone is different. But if you are able to understand who you are and define yourself the way that you want to, I think that's all that matters. And the opinions of others, that it really it doesn't matter. Don't take it into consideration, because what matters is how you feel. And it's hard to brush off sometimes the way other people define us. I get that 100%. But with that being said, you know, I think that also defines you if you're able to brush that off and just focus on you. So at the end of the day, you are the only person that's going to be there for you, no matter what. You have to live with yourself every single day. You get to wake up with the opportunity to be the person you want to be. So define yourself whatever way you want to define yourself. There's no right or wrong answer. I just have to say, like, our past and our mistakes definitely don't define us. And I think our core beliefs, our relationships, love, the way we treat ourselves, the way we treat others, that definitely has a role in defining the person that we are. But ideally, it's up to you. So you get to decide who you want to be and how you want to define yourself. So with all that being said, happy reflection. I hope this makes you want to journal or write things down or think about kind of the person that you want to be or the person that you are. Take some time to just go through some core things in your life and write down what you think defines you. I think it's a really cool exercise to try to get to know yourself. If you're working on self-improvement and you're working on being the best version of you, take the time to try to define yourself and see what comes up for you. But thank you so much for listening to today's episode of GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I had such an amazing time sharing this information with you. I hope you pick up your pencil and a piece of paper and start writing down and doing some reflection. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you are always notified when there's a new episode. Like and follow us on social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram now, so go toss a follow and a like to those profiles, and then of course leave a 5-star review. I love seeing the reviews. It also helps out a ton and I appreciate it. So till next time, stay positive, stay healthy, and do some self-reflection. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.